The truth that hits her too late: some losses don't hurt when they happen. They hurt when it's quiet. Not in the moment of the breakup. Not during the arguments. Not even when the door first closes. The real pain shows up later, when the noise fades and life slows down enough for truth to surface. Most women don't fear hurting toxic men. Walking away from chaos often feels like relief. Toxic connections drain energy, create stress, and keep the nervous system on edge. Ending those relationships feels justified, clean, necessary, but hurting a genuinely good man hits different, because the loss isn't traumatic. It's subtle, delayed, and heavy. At first, it doesn't register as loss at all. She still has attention, messages, options, distractions. The world keeps moving. Friends are around. Social media fills the silence. She tells herself she made the right choice. That he'll be fine. That good men always land on their feet. But what she doesn't realize yet is that she didn't just lose attention, she lost safety. Attention is loud. It's easy to replace. Someone will always text back. Someone will always show interest, but emotional safety is rare. It's the calm that settles in when you know someone has your back. It's the presence that doesn't demand performance. It's the feeling of being understood without having to explain yourself over and over again. Regret doesn't come instantly because safety isn't noticed until it's gone. It shows up later, in quiet moments, on stressful workdays when there's no one steady to lean on. At night when distractions stop working, in conversations that feel shallow compared to what she once had. That's when silence starts doing its work. A good man's silence isn't loud or punishing. It doesn't come with accusations or drama. It creates space, and in that space, reflection begins. She starts replaying moments. The patience she assumed would never run out. The kindness she thought was guaranteed. The effort she didn't fully return. Silence removes the safety net of forgiveness. There's no immediate reassurance. No emotional cushion. Just awareness. And awareness cuts deeper than anger ever could. By the time she fully understands what she lost, the moment has passed, the man has moved on internally, the connection has closed quietly. That's the truth that hits too late. Not because she didn't care, but because real value is often invisible while it's present. When the noise fades, truth speaks the loudest. Why a good man's silence feels terrifying. A man yelling still cares. A man going quiet is already gone. That's the part people don't like to admit, because silence feels confusing, cold, and unsettling. We're taught to believe that silence is a tactic, a way to manipulate, punish, or gain control. But when it comes to a genuinely good man, that assumption is wrong. Silence from a good man isn't a strategy. It's a conclusion. Anger is loud because it's still emotional. A man who argues is still invested. He's still hoping to be understood. He's still trying to fix something. Even frustration means there's energy left to give. Emotional withdrawal, on the other hand, happens when that energy is gone. It's not explosive. It's calm. And that calm is what makes it terrifying. Chaos is familiar. Chaos creates a sense of engagement, even if it's unhealthy. Raised voices, constant communication, emotional swings. All of that signals connection. Calm distance removes those signals. There's no tension to react to, no conflict to resolve, just space. Psychologically, calm distance triggers uncertainty. The brain doesn't know how to interpret it. There's no feedback loop, no reassurance, no fight to latch onto. That's why it feels scarier than chaos. Chaos says, I still matter enough to upset you. Silence says, I've made peace. A good man doesn't announce emotional closure. He doesn't deliver speeches or dramatic goodbyes. He doesn't need to prove anything. His closure happens internally first. The moment he understands that his effort isn't being received with respect, his nervous system disengages. That's not punishment. It's protection. This kind of closure doesn't come with warnings. There's no countdown. One day, he's present. The next, he's distant, not out of spite, but out of clarity. He's stopped offering parts of himself that were taken for granted. And that's what hits hardest. There's no door to reopen because it was closed quietly. No argument to win because there's no fight left. No apology that instantly repairs things because the emotional bond has already detached. Silence forces reflection because it removes access. It leaves space for awareness to settle in, and awareness is uncomfortable. A good man's silence isn't meant to hurt, it's meant to heal him. It's the sound of self-respect replacing hope, and once that shift happens, it rarely reverses. Silence isn't punishment, it's self-respect. The moment she realizes he's emotionally done, the scariest shift isn't rage, it's peace. Anger is loud, messy, and emotional. Peace is quiet, steady, and final. The moment she realizes he's emotionally done doesn't come with shouting or dramatic exits. It arrives softly, almost politely, which is why it takes a second to register. At first, she just notices he's different. His tone changes, not cold, not rude, just neutral. Conversations that once flowed now feel brief. He still responds, but the warmth is gone. The jokes land flatter. The curiosity about her day fades. He's no longer fully there, even when he's physically present. His energy shifts next. He's not chasing clarity anymore. He's not trying to fix misunderstandings. He doesn't bring things up just to talk. The effort that once filled the space between them quietly disappears, and that absence feels heavier than any argument ever did. Availability follows. He's busier, but not in an obvious way. He doesn't explain himself like he used to. He no longer rearranges his schedule. The access she once had to his time, attention, and emotional presence starts closing, calmly, without resistance. What makes emotional detachment so unsettling is that it feels irreversible. There's no emotional tension to pull against, no intensity to reignite. He's not withdrawn in pain. He's withdrawn in clarity. His nervous system isn't dysregulated anymore. It's settled, and that's when intuition starts whispering the truth. She feels it before she accepts it. Something in her chest tightens. The dynamic no longer feels flexible. She senses that even if she tried to pull him back, it wouldn't work the same way. But denial steps in quickly. She tells herself he's just tired, just stressed, just processing. Denial is comforting because it delays grief, but intuition doesn't go quiet. It picks up on the micro shifts, the lack of follow-up, the emotional distance, the way he no longer reaches for connection. Intuition recognizes when a bond is no longer being nourished. A good man doesn't detach impulsively. He detaches after trying, after hoping, after giving more than he received. Emotional detachment is the final stage, not the first reaction. When she finally accepts what her intuition has been telling her all along, it hits hard. He's not angry. He's not confused. He's not waiting. He's done. And when effort disappears, there's nothing left to negotiate, no argument to save it, no conversation to restart it. When effort disappears, the chapter is closed. Why good men don't leave for attention. He didn't leave to be chased. He left because he understood. That's the difference most people miss. In a world where mixed signals and push-pull games are normalized, it's easy to assume distance is manipulation. But good men don't operate like that. They don't disappear to provoke a reaction or pull away to gain leverage. When a good man leaves, it's not a tactic, it's clarity. Push-pull behavior comes from insecurity. It's designed to keep someone emotionally hooked, off balance, guessing. That kind of behavior feeds on chaos and control. A genuinely good man doesn't need chaos to feel valued. He doesn't need to test loyalty or create fear to secure attention. He wants mutual effort, not emotional chess. The key difference between manipulation and clarity is intention. Manipulation seeks response, clarity seeks peace. When a good man steps back, he isn't waiting for her to chase him. He's already processed the situation internally. He's observed patterns. He's noticed what effort is returned and what is taken for granted. And once that understanding clicks, he doesn't linger in confusion. What makes this hard to accept is that good men usually try longer than they should. They give extra chances. They explain instead of explode. They assume misunderstanding before disrespect. They stay patient because they believe in growth, connection, and repair. That patience often gets mistaken for weakness. But patience has a limit. The point of no return isn't a single argument or mistake. It's the moment he realizes his love is no longer being received with care, when effort becomes expected instead of appreciated, when boundaries are ignored, when respect feels optional. That's when something inside him shifts. And when that shift happens, there's no announcement, no dramatic goodbye. He simply stops offering what was being undervalued. He redirects his energy. He protects his peace from the outside. It can look sudden. From the inside, it's been building for a long time. A good man doesn't leave to teach a lesson. He leaves because he's learned one. He's learned that love without respect erodes the soul. And once that realization settles in, he doesn't need to be chased, convinced, or reassured. Good men don't test love. They exit when it's disrespected. The loss isn't him. It's the life he gave. She didn't lose a man. She lost peace. That's the part that takes time to understand, because on the surface, it looks like a normal breakup. To people separate, life goes on. New conversations begin. New faces appear. But underneath all of that movement, something essential is missing. At first, it feels like she only lost him, his presence, his messages, his routines. But as time passes, she realizes what's actually gone isn't a person. It's a way of living. A life where she felt emotionally held without having to ask. A life where stress didn't spiral because someone steady was beside her. What she lost was emotional safety. Emotional safety isn't loud. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't flood the phone with notifications. It shows up quietly, in consistency, in calm responses, in knowing someone won't disappear when things get uncomfortable. And because it's quiet, it's often overlooked until it's gone. Surface attention is easy to replace. Compliments, demise, interest. There will always be someone willing to flirt, chase, or fill the space temporarily. But that kind of attention doesn't settle the nervous system. It excites it, then exhausts it. That's why other men start to feel shallow afterward. Not because they're bad people, but because they don't offer the same grounding. Conversations feel lighter, but less meaningful. Connections feel entertaining, but unstable. There's attraction, but no sense of home. She notices it in small moments. When she's anxious and there's no calming voice. When she's overwhelmed and no one truly listens. When something goes wrong and the support feels conditional or distracted. That's when the absence becomes real. Goodness is a rare currency. A man who offers patience, loyalty, protection, and emotional presence without keeping score isn't common. Those qualities don't come from charm or looks. They come from character, and character isn't easily replaced. Only after losing it does she understand the value. She remembers how steady things felt, how safe it was to open up, how natural trust came. And the more she compares, the clearer it becomes. What she lost wasn't excitement or attention. She lost peace. And peace, once gone, is hard to forget. You don't miss him. You miss how safe you felt. Why replacement is her deepest fear. The fear isn't that he'll date again. It's that he'll be better. That's the thought that creeps in late at night, when distractions fade and reality gets quiet. Because deep down, the real fear isn't replacement. It's upgrading. It's the idea that the version of him she had wasn't his final form. Good men don't stay single long, and it's not because they rush into rebounds or chase validation. It's because their value is visible consistency, emotional maturity, calm presence. Those things stand out fast. Other people notice what was once taken for granted. What felt normal inside the relationship suddenly becomes rare in the outside world. When a good man leaves, he doesn't leave empty. He leaves with clarity. Heartbreak forces reflection, and reflection creates growth. He replays conversations, not to blame, but to understand. He asks himself where he overgave, where he stayed quiet too long, where he ignored his own needs. To keep the peace, pain sharpens awareness. And that's what makes this fear so deep. Because the next woman doesn't meet the same man, she meets the upgraded one, a man with stronger boundaries, a man who communicates sooner instead of waiting, a man who knows when effort is mutual and when it's wasted. He's softer where it matters, firmer where it counts. He won't repeat the same mistakes, not because he's cold, but because he learned. He won't over-explain. He won't chase uncertainty. He won't pour into someone who treats his presence as optional. Growth turns patience into discernment. Meanwhile, she's left with the comparison loop. Every new connection is subconsciously measured against what she lost. And the fear isn't that he's happy with someone else. It's that someone else gets the version of him that was forged through her loss. That's why replacement feels so threatening. Not because she's easily replaceable, but because what she had was valuable. And value doesn't disappear. It transfers. She realizes she didn't just lose a relationship. She lost access to a man who was still becoming. And now, someone else gets the benefit of the lessons he paid for emotionally. She doesn't fear losing him. She fears losing him upgraded.
Accountability hits after he's gone. Regret starts when forgiveness is no longer available. That's when accountability finally shows up, not during the arguments, not during the second chances, but after he's already gone. While he was still there, his patience softened the consequences. His consistency created the illusion that things were fine, or at least fixable later, and later felt unlimited. Delayed accountability happens because presence cushions reality. When someone stays, the mind assumes there's more time to adjust, more chances to change, more room to push boundaries without losing anything real. Patience gets misread as weakness. Calm gets mistaken for tolerance without limits. Effort becomes expected instead of appreciated. But once he leaves, the noise disappears. No reminders, no reassurance, no emotional buffering, and suddenly, actions look different without his presence reframing them. The tone that felt honest now sounds harsh. The distance that felt needed now feels careless. The moments he stayed quiet stop looking like emotional maturity and start looking like restraint that finally snapped. That's when clarity hits. Without him absorbing the emotional weight, accountability has nowhere to hide. The brain starts replaying moments, not to justify them, but to understand them. And that's uncomfortable because understanding means ownership. It means recognizing that what felt small at the time wasn't small to him. It means seeing how often he adjusted while his needs stayed unmet. Psychologically, this is when emotional maturity wakes up, not because of guilt, but because of loss. Loss removes the safety net that allows avoidance. Growth often arrives late because it requires consequence. And consequence doesn't feel real until access is gone. What makes this moment heavy is the realization that he didn't leave suddenly. He left after deciding internally for a long time. By the time his absence is felt, his forgiveness has already been used up. The window for repair closed quietly while familiarity distracted from urgency, and that's the hardest part to accept. Not that he changed, not that he moved on, but that the outcome wasn't bad luck or misunderstanding. It was the result of repeated choices that felt harmless because nothing happened immediately. When accountability finally lands, there's no one left to prove it to. No apologies that change anything, no explanations that reopen doors, just the truth sitting there. Undeniable. The hardest truth isn't losing him, it's realizing it was your choice. The reputation she carries quietly, Some labels aren't spoken, they're felt. Not every reputation is public. Some live quietly inside a person, shaping how they see themselves long after the relationship ends. Emotional reputation isn't about what friends say or what social media shows. It's about the story someone carries in their own mind, the unspoken awareness of how they showed up when it mattered. Public reputation is easy to manage. You can explain it, defend it, reframe it. Emotional reputation is different. It's built from private moments no one else saw. The times patience was tested. The times effort was met with indifference. The moments someone chose comfort over care. Those memories don't need witnesses to feel real. After he's gone, comparison begins quietly. New men may show interest, attention, even excitement. But something feels off. The depth isn't the same. The safety doesn't land the way it used to. And without meaning to, she starts measuring. Not out loud, not intentionally but emotionally. How they listen, how they show up, how consistent they are when things aren't fun. That's when the internal regret loop starts. It's not loud or dramatic. It's subtle. Small flashes of memory during ordinary moments. A random song, a quiet evening, a situation where she realizes, he would have handled this differently, and the mind fills in the gap with understanding that arrived too late. Psychologically, this loop happens because the brain seeks resolution. When something valuable is lost without closure, the mind revisits it, trying to rewrite the outcome, but instead of peace, it often creates self-awareness, the kind that doesn't fade easily. What makes this heavier is the recognition that what she lost wasn't common. It wasn't just attention or attraction. It was emotional safety, the rare kind that allows someone to relax instead of perform. And once you've experienced that, surface-level connection doesn't hit the same. That realization becomes part of her emotional reputation. Not shame, but knowing. Knowing she let something rare go. Knowing the loss wasn't about incompatibility, but timing, choices, and unspoken expectations. And the past has a way of following when lessons haven't fully landed, not to punish but to teach, because emotional growth doesn't erase memory, it reshapes it. The reputation she carries isn't about what others think, it's about what she knows now and what she won't overlook again. The glow up she wasn't ready to witness. He didn't break, he evolved. There's a quiet shock that comes when a woman realizes the man she once underestimated didn't crumble after the heartbreak. He didn't spiral. He didn't chase closure. He didn't stay stuck replaying the past. Instead, he did something far more unsettling. He healed. And when a good man heals, the transformation isn't loud, but it's undeniable. When a good man is hurt deeply, his response isn't revenge or resentment. It's reflection. Heartbreak becomes a mirror. He looks at where he overgave, where he ignored his own needs, where he tolerated less than he deserved, and instead of hardening his heart, he strengthens his foundation. That's where the glow up begins, not with attention, but with discipline. He pours into himself, his body, his purpose, his routine, not to impress anyone, but to reclaim the parts of himself he neglected while trying to love someone else. Well, the pain sharpens his focus, his habits improve, his confidence stabilizes, his presence changes. He becomes grounded in a way that doesn't seek validation. Along with growth comes boundaries, real ones, the kind that don't need explanations. He no longer overextends emotionally. He no longer chases uncertainty. He learns that consistency is something to be shared, not begged for. Where he once tried to fix, he now observes. Where he once tolerated, he now chooses. This is where the shift feels most jarring to her. He isn't bitter. He isn't cold. He's calm, selective, unavailable to chaos. His kindness is still there, but it's no longer unconditional. It's earned. And that difference is impossible to ignore. She may see it from a distance, the way his energy has settled, the way his life seems aligned, the way other people respond to him differently. He's not louder, he's quieter, more intentional, less accessible, and that restraint is magnetic. What makes this glow-up difficult to witness isn't jealousy, it's recognition. Recognition that this version of him was always possible. Recognition that the man she needed didn't disappear, he arrived later, shaped by the very loss she caused, because heartbreak didn't ruin him, it refined him, and the truth that lands the hardest is this. The man she wanted him to become couldn't exist in the environment she created. He had to lose her to find himself. And in that space where love once lived, something stronger was born. A man who knows his worth, protects his peace, and no longer offers his heart where it won't be held with care. The man she needed was born after she left. The final fear, he healed without her. The worst outcome isn't hate, it's peace without you. That's the fear that settles in long after the arguments end and the messages stop. Not anger, not resentment, but the realization that he didn't stay broken. He didn't stay stuck. He healed, and he did it without her. For many women, the deepest emotional fear isn't being hated by a good man. Hate still means attachment. Hate still means emotion. The real fear is becoming irrelevant to his inner world. When a good man heals, he doesn't announce it. He doesn't demand closure. He doesn't need a final conversation to validate his growth. He simply moves on, quietly and completely. That's what makes it unsettling. There's no dramatic ending, no final argument, no long explanation. One day, she realizes the door closed without a sound. He stopped asking questions. He stopped revisiting the past. He stopped trying to be understood. And in that silence, she feels something far heavier than rejection. She feels finality. Closure without conversation is brutal because it offers no chance to rewrite the story. No opportunity to apologize in a way that changes the outcome. No moment where emotions can be stirred back to life. His healing didn't require her understanding or approval, and that's when it hits. She wasn't part of his future healing process. A good man who heals doesn't keep looking back to check who noticed. He doesn't stalk the past. He doesn't reopen wounds just to prove he's grown. His peace becomes self-contained. His happiness no longer depends on validation from the person who hurt him, and that independence feels like erasure to the one who expected to always matter. What makes this fear final is knowing he won't reopen closed doors. Not because he's cold, not because he's unforgiving, but because he learned the cost of going back. He understands that healing required distance, and returning would undo the clarity he fought hard to earn. Good men don't gamble their peace once they've found it, and that's the truth she struggles to accept. He didn't heal to prove a point. He healed to protect himself. He didn't move on to punish her. He moved on because staying would have meant abandoning himself. That's the final fear, not that he hates her, but that he's at peace without her. If this hit, comment, "Losing me was the lesson." Like, subscribe, and remember, good men don't come twice.